All right, good afternoon. This morning, the Secretary General held a global town hall meeting with UN staff. He thanked staff members for their services and encouraged them to continue and persevere with their work despite various political and budget pressures. The Secretary General underscored that it is important to stay fixed on the fundamentals, and he emphasized that the United Nations has never been more needed, our values have never been more relevant, and the demands have never been greater. He also updated staff members on the financial situation of the organization and the cash conservation measures. He said that he would continue to appeal to donors and for member states to pay up their budget dues and to pay them on time. He reiterated his support to doing everything possible to support people in need around the world, to exercise our mandate, and to honor staff. Turning now to the situation in South Sudan, I can tell you that the Secretary General is following with deep concern the alarming situation in South Sudan. Our peacekeeping mission on the ground has called on all parties in the country to exercise restraint and uphold the revitalized peace agreement. The peacekeeping mission is also joining other regional and international peace partners in expressing alarm at the detention under house arrest of the first Vice President, Riek Machar. We warn that this action takes the country yet one step closer to the edge of collapse into civil war and the dismantling of the peace agreement. The peacekeeping mission is once again urging the President and the Vice President to resolve their grievances, to end the military confrontation, and uphold the revitalized peace agreement and take the country forward together towards the peaceful and democratic future their people deserve. And as you know, we've been highlighting almost daily here the plight and the suffering of the people of South Sudan. It should be clear to all that the people of South Sudan can ill afford to endure the consequences of yet another civil war. And as a stark reminder, 9.3 million human beings in South Sudan are already in need of some form of humanitarian assistance, with conflict, climate change, and the economic crisis keeping too many people on the verge of survival. It is vital that the leaders of the country put the interest of their people first and foremost. And I do expect a more formal statement to be issued a bit later today. Turning north to Sudan, our humanitarian colleagues there are following the situation in Khartoum closely amidst the latest shifts in the effective control of the capital city. They tell us that they continue to receive alarming reports of reprisals by armed groups against civilians. We reiterate that civilians are not a target and that all parties must adhere to their obligations under international humanitarian law and international human rights law. Serious violations have to be investigated, with perpetrators of these violations held to account. Meanwhile, we and our humanitarian partners are seizing every opportunity to reach people in need with vital support. The World Food Programme said today that 1,200 metric tons of food and nutrition assistance were distributed to about 100,000 people in Bari and Omdurman localities in Khartoum State. These are the first WFP aid trucks to get through to these specific areas within Khartoum State since the latest round of hostilities started. And the International Organization for Migration tells us that nearly 400,000 internally displaced people have recently returned to their towns and villages of origin across the states of Al Jazeera, Sennar, and Khartoum. However, many are returning to areas that have little or no access to basic services, including shelter, food, and health care. Unfortunately, displacements from North Darfur and White Nile states have increased due to the heightened insecurity in those areas. And at the Security Council this morning, the head of our peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Bintou Keita, said that despite considerable challenges, the mission continues its constant efforts to implement its mandate. She renewed our calls to the international community to direct its efforts to secure an unconditional ceasefire, and also reiterated that lasting peace in the country's east can only be achieved through a political solution. Ms. Keita encouraged the parties to recommit to dialogue within regional peace processes and also ensure women's participation in the negotiations. And as we've announced to you, Bintu will be at the Security Council stakeout after consultations. We will let you know. On the humanitarian front, our colleagues in the Congo tell us that the provinces of South Kivu, local humanitarian partners tell us that armed men abducted and raped 2 women and killed another in Kalehe territory. This happened 2 days ago. Local partners say that reports of sexual violence by armed groups have risen sharply in recent weeks, adding that the cases are still underreported as some victims fear retaliation. On the same day, armed clashes resumed in Katana area of Kabare territory, killing at least 2 civilians. That's what local civil society is telling us. Fighting also temporarily blocked the roads between Bukavu and Kalehe, halting the movements of humanitarian workers. With the roads reopening yesterday, humanitarian groups have been able to resume their operations in the area. And in Ituri province, local reports tell us that the situation in the town of Fataki remains highly volatile 3 days after fierce clashes in the area subsided. In Tanganyika provinces, 2 local humanitarian workers were attacked and robbed while conducting a food security assessment in Kaleme territory on March 24th. This attack illustrates the high risk that humanitarian workers face in the country. Since the conflict escalated in the east in January, at least 11 humanitarian workers have been killed. That's more than in all of 2024. OCHA is also concerned about the accelerating spread of cholera in the eastern part of the Congo, with outbreaks now declared in 4 provinces: North Kivu, South Kivu, Tanganyika, and Maniema. Our humanitarian partners are also responding with treatment and outreach programs, but medical items, protective equipment, and sanitation facilities are unfortunately in short supply. The outbreak appears to be worsening in Maniema province, where health authorities are reporting a case fatality rate of 13%, well above the 2% emergency threshold. Maniema is already under strain as thousands of displaced people have arrived there since January, fleeing violence in both North and South Kivu. And staying on the subject of the Congo, at 2 p.m. today in this room, there'll be a briefing on the new Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Analysis, basically the IPC. The report published today documents the highest number ever recorded of acute food insecure people in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Jean-Martin Bao, who you'll recall was the Haiti WFP country director, and you know well, is now the Director of Food Security and Nutrition Analysis at WFP. He will be briefing you, and Shelley Thakral, WFP spokesperson in the DRC, will also brief you. Jean-Martin will be in Rome, and Shelley will be briefing you from Kinshasa. Turning to the occupied Palestinian territory in Gaza, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that the situation continues to rapidly worsen. Intensified hostilities continue across the Strip, killing and injuring people and severely restraining the ability of humanitarian workers to provide life-saving support. As we mentioned earlier this week, since the ground operations commenced in Rafah on Sunday, several ambulances belonging to Palestinian Civil Defense as well as Palestinian Red Crescent were hit while trying to rescue wounded, and their crew became trapped in the area. Contacts with the teams was lost, but several casualties have been reported. Yesterday, an OCHA and Red Crescent team attempted to help extract casualties and recover the ambulances, but they are unable to reach the area. We've also received reports of a number of civilians still trapped due to the ongoing hostilities. And our colleagues are also attempting to organize safe passage for those civilians to be able to leave. OCHA reiterates that civilians must be protected under international law. Health workers, including first responders, should never be targeted. Civilians fleeing fighting must be allowed to do so safely, and they must be allowed to return voluntarily when the situation allows it. More people in Gaza are being forced to flee as the Israeli authorities issue more displacement orders. 2 new directives went out last night for the western parts of Gaza. The area under displacement orders now covers 18% of Gaza's territory. Those newly displaced urgently need life-saving support, including food, water, medicine, and obviously shelter. We and our partners are responding to people's deepening needs as the situation allows it, but the complete closure of the crossings for the entry of cargo, which includes humanitarian aid coupled with ongoing hostilities, is making all of this increasingly challenging. Tens of thousands of tents and hundreds of thousands of shelter items are waiting to enter Gaza as the crossings remain fully shut. Many families forced to flee are unable to bring any of their belongings, further intensifying the shelter crisis. Dwindling shelter stocks in Gaza are completely insufficient to meet the immense needs. The World Food Program, for its part, warns that hundreds of thousands of people are again at risk of severe hunger and malnutrition as humanitarian stocks dwindle and crossings remain closed. Ongoing insecurity and severe restriction of movements are resulting in significant disruption of food assistance. With the deteriorating security situation, rapid displacement of people, and growing needs, WFP has decided to distribute as much food as possible, as quickly as possible. And they and their partners say they have more than 77,000 metric tons of food supplies outside Gaza ready to enter once the crossings reopen. Meanwhile, WHO warns that the health system in Gaza is in a free fall. Health partners report that essential medical supplies for managing mass casualty incidents need to be restocked due to a sharp increase in trauma cases and the severity of injuries. WHO says there are fewer than 500 units of blood available when 8,000 are needed every month. Anesthesia and vaccines are also running out. And turning to Haiti, our colleagues from the Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs say humanitarian situation in Port-au-Prince metropolitan area continues to deteriorate as armed groups continued to enact violence. The extremely volatile security situation is also, of course, hindering the work of the humanitarian organizations, but we and our partners continue to do what we can to help people in need as security and funding permits. UNFPA, the UN Population Agency, reports that 2 safe spaces for women and girls remain open in the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area, and mobile teams to support gender-based violence victims are being deployed to displacement sites. However, activities have been reduced in area due to the ongoing violence. Last year, OCHA estimates that 3 million people received at least one form of humanitarian assistance out of 3.6 million we and our partners aimed to reach. This year's humanitarian response plan requires more than $900 million to support 3.9 million people. Almost half of them are women and children. Food security, protection, and water and sanitation are among the most pressing needs, but the current plan is financed only at 5%, or just $46 million. We have a quiz today, but they're... What?
International Day of
No.
Zero Waste
Well,
Day. No, it's a
just wait for the questions. Yeah, you must have been something in school, the two of you, huh? 2 important dates today. It is opening day of the baseball season, so it's the start of a great season for the New York Mets, and
zero waste.
and it is Edie Lederer's birthday today. Okay, no singing. And we do have a quiz for you today. This country has made conservation a national priority and has been at the forefront of preserving its natural environment, with 28% of its land protected in the form of national parks, reserves, or wildlife refuge. Yes, very good, very good. Costa Rica. We say thank you to our friends in San Jose for their regular payment to the budget. We are now at 84 member states fully paid up. Edie, it is your birthday. I'm not going to deny you the first question today of all days.
Thank you, Steph. On Gaza, can you give us any idea of the size or the amount of stocks still in the country that can be distributed? And also, what kind of contacts is the UN, and I'm thinking specifically of Sigrid Kaag, having with the Israeli authorities about trying to resume the delivery of humanitarian aid?
Our contacts continue mostly through COGAT, obviously, which is our main point of contact. Sigrid Kaag is also and her team remain in touch with key Israeli interlocutors. I mean, our message has been pretty simple since the beginning, and our message to all the parties has been to go back to the ceasefire, return to the release of the hostages, return to the arrival of humanitarian aid in massive numbers. I mean, it was clear to all what the United Nations, what the private sector could do if the crossings are open in terms of delivering humanitarian aid. Deji, then Pam.
A completely different.
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry, go ahead.
Let Edie do the follow-up.
No, you didn't get. Is there an indication of what's left?
Again, I think the best way to describe it is it's a shrinking pile, right? I'm not going to get into exact numbers, but as you saw, WFP is trying to distribute what they have as quickly as possible. We don't want to sit on anything, but we also want to make sure it lasts as long as possible.
Yeah, a completely different topic. Yesterday, President Trump decided to impose 25% tariffs on all imported auto, cars, and parts. The Secretary General worried that this would further escalate a already existing trade war.
Look, I mean, I think we've spoken about the issue of tariffs, and our position remains the same. So, we live in a very much in a global, interlinked economy. It is important that member states resolve their trade issues through constructive engagement or through existing architecture, whether it's within the UN or not. But these are things that can have very, and we've seen other countries put up tariffs. These are things that can have very severe impacts on the global economy. So Pam, then Benny, then Michelle.
Is there any update on anything going on with the Black Sea grain?
Nothing more than what I said yesterday.
And is there any statement from the SG or your office on an interest in returning to the mechanisms?
Well, there's no I mean, I would refer you, Pam, to I think the pretty explicit statement I issued yesterday.
Yes.
There's no update
no,
from
I
there.
saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no update.
No.
Thank you.
Benny, then Michelle.
So, first of all, you're wrong about the Mets. It's Dodgers, regrettably. Anyway, on another...
We could we'll speak in October, Benny, no doubt.
On another topic, well, the Yankees are going to beat the Mets. On another topic, I don't know if it's you or OLA. I need some guidance as to the possibility of an observer state leading the becoming president of the General Assembly. Is that possible? Is it legal? What's the story?
I think that is an issue that member states will have to resolve.
And there's nothing in the charter that would...
The charter is a pretty transparent document.
so you want me to read it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying to you. Michelle Nichols.
Thank you. In case not to be confused with any other Michelles in the room.
No.
Has the Secretary General asked to speak with President Trump or Secretary Rubio?
Yeah, I mean, we've had contacts at different levels. As soon as there is a contact between the President and the Secretary General, we will let you know.
And is the Secretary General concerned, or does it affect the UN in any way if there is potentially another delay in a U.S. ambassador
We,
arriving?
we've seen the reporting on this speculation, on which I will not comment. The U.S. Remains represented here by Chargé until a permanent representative arrives. Deji.
Yes, a follow-up of my question. It's been reported by Reuters that the United States has paused contributions to World Trade Organization, the organization probably just referring to about settling the issues. Can you confirm this report, and what's the reaction from Secretary General that U.S. probably suspended funding the
No,
WTO?
I would have you to reach out to WTO. Gabriel.
Thanks,
Elizondo, Al Jazeera.
Thanks, Steph. Just to follow up on South Sudan, and I'm sorry I came in about a minute late, so I might have missed the very top. Is the Secretary General specifically calling for the President to reverse his decision on jailing or detaining the Vice
We want to see a return to the revitalized peace accord, and that would include restoring the freedom of the first Vice President. But it is incumbent on both the President and the first Vice President and their allies to recommit themselves to an agreement that exists. Again, as I said this in the beginning, we talk about the suffering of the people of South Sudan every day here almost. And it is unimaginable that the political leaders would allow their country to go back into a state of bloody civil war and the tragedy that would ensue.
And the Foreign Minister of Rwanda and the Security Council made some pretty strong claims against MONUSCO. I won't list them all, but saying that MONUSCO has basically essentially lost credibility, and he said, where is MONUSCO? And he listed some examples of where villages were attacked. Just in a broader picture, how does the Secretary General think the job that MONUSCO has done?
We stand by the work that the mission has done, its leadership, and the peacekeepers that remain. And as you know, they have been doing a tremendous amount of work protecting civilians in the face of real danger. A number of them have paid with their lives, and we're proud of the work that they've done. Signore.
All right, thank you. Massimo Basile Agi. I don't know if this question has been already asked, but for your high-level communication and chat, I mean you and the Secretary General, etc., do you use a platform like Signal, or you use other kind different?
What I will tell you, and this is from my experience at the UN for the last 24 years, that there is no such thing as a fully safe way to communicate without the risk of someone listening into your conversations. And that's just for UN conversations and from experience. On that note, hasta la vista. Oh yes, please, Maria, go ahead. I mean, you did win.
I am the winner.
You are the winner.
It is Costa Rica. Perhaps this has been asked before, but our colleagues at VOA, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty are now on administrative leave. How does the UN see this? We have a colleague here who's missing now. And how does the Secretary General view the situation with the funding of these stations? Thank you.
Listen, I mean, on our colleague who was here, we had the Secretary General had a chance to say a very warm goodbye to her and thank you for all the work that she's done over the years here at the UN. I'm not going to get into the specifics, though. You know, as a rule of thumb, despite what I sometimes feel, I do support journalists. And the more media we have, the more journalists and the more variety of voices that we have, the better. And happy birthday, Edie.